Welcome back to another episode of This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network, where we try to not rate movies. Now, there is a certain opinion out there that you can be objective, that there is an objective opinion about a movie, and we're here to prove them right by going through a series of gauntlets and consistently failing at that. So we haven't really proven them right yet, but we're still trying. This week, we are going over a very hotly...
It's not getting any easier this week.
It's not getting any easier this week. We're going over a highly anticipated film. Years, almost decades. Almost a decade in the making, I think.
More than a decade. 13 years, Kurt.
13 years. So,
2009.
So which movie are we talking about today, Eric?
Avatar, The Way of Water. It's about the avatars that had kids learning the way of water.
That said, are you ready? Are you ready for the gauntlet this time around?
I am, but first I wanted to help announce a sort of rebrand that we're going through. We are still a branch of the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network, but that new title is actually the Drive-In Podcast Network. We are just the Drive-In moving forward, folks. You want to tailgate and follow football? You want to go to a drive-in movie theater? We cover both of these things in multiple different ways. And so you can see, us at the same places that you used to go to. You're just going to start hearing a different title. So, welcome back to This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Drive-In Podcast Network.
So, Eric, is Avatar, The Way of Water a good movie?
One of these days you're going to get the button.
I know.
You're going to actually have it.
Mm-hmm.
Debated doing that tonight. I think we debated talking about Black Christmas because this is going to be our Christmas episode.
Yes.
But I'm intentionally avoiding this question.
Mm-hmm.
You did something a few episodes ago by looking up the critics' consensus and finding some factual details with WALL-E that, with critics' consensus on one movie and then found the factual details with WALL-E on another one. Avatar: The Way of Water is a very long blockbuster featuring explosions and action sequences that are expected of blockbuster. And I recorded earlier tonight for a branch of the Drive-In Podcast Network.
All right.
And the consensus of those involved, being 3 people out of 4, was that they enjoyed their experience watching the movie.
Okay. All right. Out of this 3-hour and 15-minute film, what's the best scene?
When the dad says, "I see you now." Oh, that part. Every scene in this movie that I like is either because of how it's delivered, but the scene itself is not necessarily standout, or it's because I love the concept of what's going on, but not necessarily the delivery. So, yeah, because when you're talking about the best scene in the movie, I think it speaks to the primary narratives of the movie, that being Jake Sully's the middle child, the second son, and the revenge of the actor who I can always remember his name when I'm not thinking about it, from Don't Breathe.
Yeah, Stephen Lang.
Stephen Lang's character. Those two things are pushing this whole story into being one cohesive story. And so that pinpoint moment, that sort of mini climax of the story that is not a big explosion, it's this really intimate moment of Jake Sully saying, "I see you now," to his son, just really, really, really worked for me. So, yeah, I mean, I've put out a video where I'm wearing these things the whole time. And so I guess people will be able to see my eyes now, because that's the whole joke in that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but, I wanted to watch this because it's the sequel to Avatar.
Yeah, that's the main reason why a lot of people wanted to watch this. It's a sequel that they were promised like a year after Avatar came out, and they didn't get it until 13 years later. It's basically Kingdom Hearts 3 for movies.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like the Kingdom Hearts series. But it did feel big like that too. To keep it short and simple, my thoughts on this were that it felt like mythically large in a way that was really satisfying and felt like a massive event, to where I'm looking forward to the next one on a scale of something like the main Avengers movies or Lord of the Rings or something like that. This really did tip the balance for me into feeling like these are like monumental movies, like filmmaking milestones. So, I don't think they're it's the most personally important work of art or anything like that, but yeah. What about you?
I basically watched this because it was the thing coming out. I saw Avatar like one time many years ago and thought it was all right. I've seen movies similar to it that said the same story with a shorter runtime, and if I wanted to watch that story, I could always fall back on these other things.
I got a question for you. Did you see Avatar 2009 in theaters?
I never saw it in theaters.
That is a huge thing. See, the thing about this with James Cameron, with this one and with 2009, is that they are technical achievements almost more than they are supposed to be achievements in making a movie.
Right.
The stories are very simple. Save the Earth. This one, save the oceans.
Yes.
The point is, when Avatar came out in 2009, they had never once done that motion capture technology before.
Right.
The point was they had never done 3D as immersively as that before. So you actually missed a huge aspect of the point of the movie by missing it in theaters.
Right, sure.
And that's a rough thing to say, because in the end you are, famously left with either Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, take your pick, with, minor changes here and there.
But, I could always fall back on that old George Lucas quote back when he was first making Star Wars, where, special effects without a story is a pretty boring thing. And as visually stunning as the first Avatar is, the story is very baseline, and it's a 3-hour story that's very simplistic that could have been cut down to be shorter.
Well, it was shorter. Odds are you got to see an extended cut when you watched it, because when it was being released, there were 2 different extended cuts. So, if you saw Jake Sully on Earth, it was an extended cut.
Okay, so
I'm pretty sure.
So I watched the extended cut then. But at some point when you start learning about the whalers on Pandora, you start to get like little bits and pieces of the original Avatar plot kind of sneaking their way into this movie, and at that point I was starting to check out because it's a story I've seen before, and I wanted to get back to the stuff that I wanted to see. There are a bunch of other things in there, like the importance of a family unit, what it means to be a father, what it means to be a family, and there's all these little things in there that you get. Going far back as the Titanic, where it's the first James Cameron movie that I can remember seeing and thinking, looks boring. But then once you watch it, you get enveloped into the environment and into the characters. The music kind of amps everything up and makes a more cohesive and immersive world. You get a lot of the same things with Avatar 1 and Avatar 2.
Yeah, a lot of people have said this, and I feel like I agree with it, that most of the things that feel like your sort of nature documentary aspects of the movie, of exploring the way the world works, there's some of the stuff that I sunk into the hardest.
Right.
I guess it is whaling, but whatever the creatures are called that Jake Sully's son bonds with, the one that is an outcast, that was the most impactful story for me. That was the thing that I kept waiting to get back to.
Right.
And what do you think of Spider?
Spider, I like his character so far. There are already 2 more movies in the works, and I feel like they've only just started to develop his character, so I can't say exactly how I feel about him until those other movies come out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really hoping that this story is not going the direction that it looks like it's going right now.
Right.
I would much rather, instead of having a round 3 between Jake Sully and
Stephen Lang.
Stephen Lang. I really like that actor. It just keeps happening with this movie for some reason. Sam Worthington, I can remember that name.
Yeah. Last time I saw Sam Worthington in a movie, it was Avatar 1.
Well, I think there are great performances all around, but I will say that what I'm hoping happens in Avatar 3 is Stephen Lang's character goes on more of an arc of his own, having to learn to appreciate certain aspects of the world that he's underestimated, and he has to learn to survive on Pandora. And we got a little bit of that in this, a little bit of a tease that they took advantage of resources in order to mingle and, gain footing on the ground.
Right.
But I would like to see that those characters sort of age out of vengeance. If their sons are going to go the way it looks like it's going and age into vengeance. Yeah.
But, Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana do give really nice performances. I really like Zoe Saldana as Sam Worthington's mate in this one. I can never remember her name though. But there are a bunch of shots in here that are absolutely gorgeous. The standout one that I can think of is Loak with the creature that has just saved him, swimming back to the Water People tribe, and you get this beautiful shot from the bottom that very reminiscent of a shot from Waterworld, where you have him and this whale creature kind of spinning with the sun with the sun shining down on them. A lot of this actually might be influenced by Waterworld. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. I can understand because of the ship combat and if you just replace some of the ships with creatures and whatnot. But there are shades there, but I feel like once you're gonna have a big action set piece set on water with ships,
there's only so much that you can do with it.
You're gonna end up feeling like one movie or another, whether it's like something like Battleship or something more like Waterworld. It's gonna feel like something. Yeah. So I can't say that that's not being original. I just think that's a consequence of, I don't know, limitations. There's weird that there's so much that they could be doing, and yet the movie is so simplified down to focusing on a couple of main stories. Yeah. And yet there's so many characters. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, things that I didn't like about it, I don't, as much as like Stephen Lang's character, I don't like that they found this really weird way to bring him back. Like, apparently they cloned him and took his memories and implanted him into this avatar thing. It just, I think I would have liked it better if you gave more just a new villain that didn't have the exact same motivations in the last film, and give me something new.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it kind of is the way of avoiding it just being a copy of Avatar, because clearly what they had going on in the background was the whaling, the hunting, which would have been straight up a copy of Avatar.
Yeah, with the unobtainium and all that.
Yeah, while some military personnel grew to have a grudge with Jake Sully. I mean, like, that would have been a copy. Yeah. Having a continuation of it, I think it makes sense. I agree that the way they went about it is a little bit odd. I think you could have done it in more of a, he had a son you didn't know about on Earth who wanted to live up to his father and was in the Marines and now is older kind of thing. Yeah. But, so he shows up, like, in his avatar, and when they see him as a human, they'd have some moment of recognition or something like that. The character Spider feels weirdly plugged into me, and I feel like if you had combined the idea of the Spider character and the Stephen Lang character, you would have had one whole character that makes sense, like an avatar that grows to know them, that you then find out is just trying to bide his time and get close for revenge, and then is outcast, but then he knows their world and knows how to track them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And what did you think of Sigourney Weaver's, like, de-aged thing?
I actually didn't. It didn't bother me. Like it looked pretty natural to me.
It didn't bother me at all. Some people are commenting, like, noticing that the voice is digitally altered. I did not. I didn't notice that on anything.
I didn't notice anything. Like remotely weird. They did a really good job making her match her 2012 self. 2009 self. Gotta keep forgetting. So like the work they did with her, I'm fine with. I'm a storyline that I got invested in that I got no closure on was Sigourney Weaver's daughter's character. They set her up for something big to happen that I thought was going to be paid off in this movie. It looks like it's going to be paid off in future films where
Sigourney Weaver plays her daughter.
I did not know that.
That's what I meant by the de-aging.
Ah.
Yeah, so you did not notice anything weird about
absolutely that. Absolutely not.
That was Sigourney Weaver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But still, like with that character though.
Yeah.
Like there's
telegraphed so hard. Like, oh, it's epilepsy. It's like okay, it's not epilepsy. We get it. Now just tell us what it is. Oh, no. We have to wait till the ending. And then that was the surprise, that was not the ending. I was like, wow.
Yeah. She can't plug back into the life tree again. Okay, so she's gonna plug back in at some point, and it's gonna save everyone. And no, they're saving that for a future film, I guess.
I'd be excited for that too. That thread has been going. She had a bizarre connection with the tree anyways. And then you have what happened to her character, and then she was absorbed into the tree. And I think that was bizarre because she is a human and was not therefore supposed to be. I have to rewatch Avatar in order to remember all of this, but there is something unique and special going on about that character, and in a sort of very naturalistic chosen one way where that's normally a trope, but you're getting to see them lay the groundwork of building something like that up. Like as far as like Christian allegory goes, very much like a Jesus character is what I'm getting. Like you have an immaculate birth. No one knows who the father is, assuming there is a father. She's more in tune with the planet than other Na'vi are. Like there's just a whole bunch of threads that got pulled on but never paid off. That's literally with the survival of, well, spoilers because it's a spoiler podcast. With the survival of Stephen Lang's character, there is one death, and it's a character that is born in the movie.
Yeah.
So the characters begin and end having gone through something that significantly makes them feel more for the planet, but in terms of telling a story, leaves characters roughly in the same position they were at when the movie started 3 hours ago. Yeah,
pretty much. As far as pacing goes, what did you think of the film? Is there stuff that that probably could have been trimmed out a bit to cut down on time?
Always, I feel like there is. I'm hard pressed to think right now because I feel like a lot of it was just letting scenes breathe and letting you enjoy things. But I feel like the second or third time I watch this movie, I'm going to appreciate the scenery, but I'm not going to sit through the entire movie in one sitting. The entire beginning.
Yeah, I feel the same. You could have just opened up with him having a family. You didn't have to go through the whole visual escapade of the ever-growing family.
Just do one 30-second scene of some narration and cut out the rest of the narration where Jake Sully says, life can be perfect, but it can be that perfection, that feeling of happiness can be gone in a heartbeat. And they see that people are landing, and when the people land, you cut right into an action sequence that is the one where the brothers go where they're not supposed to go.
Right.
And then, because that doesn't go well, they leave. They don't spend a bunch of time doing recon on the old space and whatnot. Maybe you have that scene so that you can establish the younger characters so you can have the same impact. But you really don't need that at all. Right. You could put a different version of that scene that briefly foreshadows Spider's connection to Stephen Lang. But I think there's just... all of that is completely unneeded for the story that is going to happen, that doesn't really start until they are accepted into the Water Tribe.
Right. So. Yeah, I think I generally agree with everything there. There's not a whole lot in this movie that I can really like pick at and say I didn't like.
Yeah.
Like the score.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah. The score worked pretty well. You have some new things in there, plus like a revamp of the original Avatar score. Theme music, which I always appreciate. You know, despite not seeing Sam Worthington in a bunch of stuff lately, it's nice to see him back and doing something. I could possibly see myself going back to watch this. It might make rewatching Avatar slightly more of a thing for me, but like anything that I would want to get out of Avatar is in Avatar 2. So
yep. This definitely felt like a huge, like I keep saying this over and over again, that it feels a huge something.
Right.
And I don't know how to explain it. It's by the time you've swelled things to the moment that they're all connected to the tree, it just feels like a giant branching core story. And it feels like we've seen one branch. So it feels like a story that's larger than our life. And going and playing in the water and feeling that sense of relaxed fun combined with the sort of adventure that kicks off. I mean, I'd rewatch the whole movie probably again just to get the sequence where the outcast whale just belly flops onto the ship. Yeah. That whole sequence was absolutely amazing. Like, I thought it was cheer-worthy. Nobody was cheering, so I restrained myself. But that was an absolute blast, and that's what I was hoping it would be. And then came the emotion. And that really made this work very well for me. So I'm definitely going to watch this again. This feels like a movie that is a movie to be watched. Yeah. So
I think something that this hits home far more like far more than in Avatar 1 is the sense of adaptation and learning of a different culture and you know, working together to form peace. That's much more of a theme in this one, I think, than in the original.
And I think that concept of working together, again, it's that speech about water. I have a gut feeling that these sequels are called The Way of Water, The Way of Fire, The Way of Air, and The Way of Earth.
Get all the Avatar elements in there.
Because I feel like they're all natural elements of a living space. Okay? And I feel like we've probably seen The Way of Air in the first Avatar, so if the sequels 2, 3, and 4 do end up being like fire and earth, I wouldn't be surprised. It feels like this chapter was them migrating to learn this about the world. The next chapter will be them migrating to learn something else about the world. And you have these concepts of terrain that is different. So we've been to the forest, and we've been flying between rocks, and we've been all over the jungle. Now we've been to the depths of the ocean. I feel like moving to like an industrial desert is one, and I feel like a sort of mountainous volcano or again, you just push that industry a little bit further and you end up with refined steel and people working and building, and then you have this big blowout war. You have the Way of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think the only thing that I hope they do further on is I hope they slowly start to edge out the military aspect of all this, because it as much as it may seem like it would be natural that the U.S. military or the world military would be doing this to a different planet, it just feels so stock that I prefer almost anything else.
Well, I just think there is something core believable and like it's almost universal about the idea of industry versus nature.
Right.
And so I don't feel like you're ever going to totally lose that element, and I think the easiest thing is going to be military.
Right.
You have private contractors, you have the marine biologist in this one, you have Giovanni Ribisi in the first one. But you have you have to have a motivation for doing it, and that is, if that whole idea is what you generate versus you just embracing what is naturally there, then that's going to be a through line that makes all of this one big story worth telling.
Right.
So I think if you switch it to being an opposing force that's natives that want industry versus allowing the world to be what it is, I mean, it's 6-1, really.
Yeah, I guess.
But I guess it wouldn't be just saying that, like, all humans are trying to destroy everything. And I don't know. Yeah.
Thanks again for watching another episode of This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Drive-In Podcast Network. Be sure to stop by the website to check out other podcasts such as the W Delight, the Fantasy Football Podcast, the This Week at the Movies podcast hosted by Eric and Matthew Fox. And we hope to see you again. With that being said, I am Curtis. You can follow me at 90sgamer407 on Twitter and on Twitch at Merrick_tainment.
I'm Eric. You can find me at High Contrast FLM or on YouTube at High-Contrast.
All right. How do we take this out?
I want to do one of those squeals from Avatar, but I don't know.